you've brought this into your practice now. So can you share a little bit about some of the support you have for people that are ethical vegans that maybe are struggling with some of the trauma related to their lifestyle choices?
Yeah, that is definitely an area of interest of mine is supporting other vegans, like um not just with like their physical health, like through, nutrition and eating well, but also their emotional health because um I think that there's not a lot of consideration for the fact that being vegan in this world is like a whole other like extra layer of stress that a person lives with when they are living a vegan lifestyle. Like there is that the additional like social stress, especially if you don't have a lot of other like social vegan supports in your life. Or if, people in your life aren't solid like vegan allies, right? Where people that are, they maybe like respect veganism and kind of agree with it in some ways, but aren't, vegan themselves, and they're willing to just, support you, right? Um, and not everyone is lucky enough to have people like that in their lives. Not every vegan is lucky enough to have people like that in their lives. And yeah, like just living in this world as a vegan can be stressful and even traumatizing at times. I recently read one of Melanie Joy's books, but
Yes.
Beyond Beliefs.
Hmm.
It's an excellent resource, I think, for vegans and non-vegans alike. Like it's really just more about kind of explaining some of the concepts behind veganism and um, for both helping vegans be able to better explain their values and their views on things, but also in kind of helping vegan allies or non-vegans, like just be able to kind of know where their vegan loved ones are coming from and how they can kind of, communicate effectively. Um, and now where was I going with this? Um, yeah. And also like the transition towards being vegan can be kind of traumatic at times, especially if you've lived as a non-vegan for a lot of your life, because, in order to become vegan, it's almost kind of like lifting the veil on like this idea of like how we see our food system, how we see the world, the role that animals play in this world. And you're consuming all of this information and you start to all of a sudden realize like, oh, wait a minute, I just learned all of this. I don't want to eat animals or things that come from animals anymore because I don't want to support a system that doesn't align with my values and my like what is important to me. And there can be, some trauma with like consuming that information, with viewing like graphic images or graphic videos. Um, and reading descriptions of like what happens to animals in the food system. Um, and so that can be quite traumatizing, and yet it's like we also kind of need to know those things in order to make that leap, right? To recognize like, oh crap, like that doesn't align with like what I thought was happening. That doesn't align with like what I think should happen. So I don't want to support that. Um, but then also, so that's like one layer of kind of like trauma that can happen. It's just, you know, seeing what is actually going on. And then there can also be guilt with, reflecting on like that you've kind of like maybe participated in a system that you didn't agree with for a long time. There can be a lot of guilt and shame initially when that realization comes, or when a person first transitions towards being vegan because they're like, oh my God, why didn't I do this sooner? And like, I'm never like, I just was so ignorant before and all of those things. So that can be a layer of, emotional challenges. But then also thereafter, like, once you kind of know what you know, it's hard to like unknow it, if that makes sense. So like, you know, as a vegan, it's kind of like once you know how meat, where meat comes from, how it's produced, once you like, you don't really look at meat the same way after that, for something that maybe you once viewed as like something that was food, all of a sudden it's not food anymore. It's part of like something that was once like a living being. And, seeing how other people, like your loved ones, still view it as food can be really like painful sometimes. And it can be like traumatizing as well if, people in your life maybe don't understand the emotional impact that, seeing meat can have.